Hey, everybody, and welcome back. It's Inside the Force. Dave Cunningham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
And joining us this week on Inside the Force is Hannah Burr. How are you, Hannah?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Great. Thanks for joining us on our additional quarantine episode of Inside the Force. Even though I enjoy doing this weekly, this is case we need to get back in here.
I know
it's tough not being right next to somebody, you know.
The biggest thing is like just kind of what happened there. It's like you never know exactly when people are stopping to stop and start talking, and there's a lot more stepping on each other's toes with this, which is
agreed.
Kind of annoying,
but Hannah, thanks for. I didn't wear a Star Wars shirt today. I know you guys are geeking out with your Star Wars shirts. Yes, exactly. Yes, nice.
Well, this is kind of like a PJ sweater too. Since it's quarantine, I don't really change too often.
I do have my. I won't stand up. I do have my Darth Vader sleeping pants on. But
there you go.
Yeah, and Case, your pop figures went away that you had back there.
They're on the floor. Jake, my son, plays with them. I had to let go of that a little bit. So I'm like, what? Like, because he's a 2.5-year-old, so he's a little rough.
Yeah,
but it's fine.
All right, so we mentioned it last week, and it's quickly gaining on us. On this episode, we're going to talk about a little bit what we're doing for Star Wars Day, which is a mere 3 days away, I think, 3 or 4 days away. Coming up on Monday. Some good things coming out for that. We're going to just bust through some stuff that came out this past week. But our main topic, usually we get into kind of reviewing what we saw in Clone Wars last week. But we're going to actually save that for the end because the thing was touted as being the best episode ever of Clone Wars. Curious to think what everybody thinks about that. So we'll get into that later. First up, though, I got to start with the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas. I was actually very surprised to see this get released this week. And actually, I think Tracy, what's her name, Case?
Oddly enough, her last name is Kenobio.
Kenobio, yeah, that's right. Which I guess that's true.
I guess that's her real last name, or it's a Twitter thing. I mean, that's how everybody refers to her as. So Tracy,
and I always refer to you to pronounce it right. So Tracy.
When James Arnold Taylor, he's referenced her on his podcast. And that's the only time I've ever heard it spoken. Really, so it's like okay,
that makes sense. That makes sense. So I saw on Twitter she released the. I saw it on that, but it ended up being on the Star Wars show. The Star Wars show that only comes out once a month now, the last Wednesday of every month. But anyway, they released a conversation that David Collins. He hosted a conversation between Dave Filoni and George Lucas. Now, apparently, that conversation was not supposed to be released. It was going to be just an internal thing, but it was so good that they put it out there. Yeah. So, really enjoyed watching that. Hannah? What did you think about that conversation?
I mean, honestly, I think it was really cool to hear the teamwork between the two of them, and I think my favorite part of the whole conversation was just how they were looking to the future constantly. They were saying, this isn't just a TV show. This isn't just animation. How can we make this Star Wars quality? And I think they totally did that. And the fact that they were even thinking about motion capture and how do we incorporate this into the really unique animation style, especially at that time. So honestly, my takeaway is that it shows that George constantly thinks about where everything's going to go versus just kind of looking at what's happening now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this really just again reminded me of how much I admire George Lucas's technique, because there's such a good and bad history with his name where people will just blame him for so much, but every choice he's done has been so deliberate. And this interview just reminded me of that, and how he is a firm believer of every choice he makes. And it's never been random. It's never been by the seat of his pants. And just by the simple conversation of them saying, what was your favorite episode? And he was saying this droid arc that a lot of people hated, but it was like one of his favorites. And it's just, and how he even wanted, like, talk about an arc that he wanted to introduce, like a whole arc about banking regulations or something like that. They referenced. It's like he's still, like, to this day, like, I thought it would have been a good story, and everybody else was all like rolling their eyes about it. But he's so consistent with just how he operates and how he tells stories, and how how confident he is in his stories. And I love that. And obviously, because of that, we've gotten so many great things. But people disagree with a lot of his choices there towards the end of his leadership of Star Wars, but he's still a firm believer of everything he's done, which is, I just admire that so much about him.
My biggest takeaway was, because we talked about it a little bit last week, Casey, with the whole line that Filoni talked about Star Wars being, about family, and how George kind of taught him that. And it's great seeing those, because they dropped in a bunch of behind the scenes footage still of the writer's room and all that, the time when they're all just sitting around George, just going over new concepts and ideas for the Clone Wars. Even though I love this conversation, my takeaway with this is that I want like a docu-series on the making of the Clone Wars.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, it seems like they have a ton of footage.
Yeah.
It seems like a camera was rolling in those creative rooms all the time. And we've only, I just feel like we've only got a sniff of how much Filoni and George spent time with each other. I mean, it seems like it was just 24 hours a day almost, you know? So it's again, it just kind of solidifies also the confidence I feel like that most Star Wars fans have in Filoni, and the trust, I think, and I guess almost if everybody could vote, I feel like everybody would vote to give the creative direction of Star Wars to Dave Filoni. I have never heard a bad thing said about Dave Filoni. Have you? I don't know if I ever have.
I have, but overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah. I mean, some concepts, sure, some takeaways. I mean, but someone complaining that the Obi-Wan Maul fight was too fast, whatever. I mean, that's. In fact, Sam Witwer had a great explanation about that too. Yeah. That's really good.
He's been great in defending everything that's been told about him. It's good.
Okay, then so that came out on the Star Wars show this past week. Some bit of casting news that briefly broke. It's not official, but like none of this stuff is yet. But Cassian Andor, some more casting for that. I don't know Denise Go, but Genevieve O'Reilly is very familiar. She is Mon Mothma these days. She was Mon Mothma in Rogue One, and she has voiced Mon Mothma in both. I guess she did Clone Wars. Did she do Clone Wars?
Yeah,
yes, she did. Yeah, Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. So she is returning. Apparently, by reports are that she's going to be returning to the Cassian Andor series as Mon Mothma. So I think that was inevitable.
No, it's great that they're consistent.
Yeah. In fact, I still have hopes that she will show up in Mandalorian, actually.
They can age her up.
Because she is the Chancellor of the
true.
New Republic. Just
that
saying.
Would be interesting.
Yeah. All these castings, like Ahsoka, Mon Mothma, they actually can work in both of these timelines. If Ahsoka's alive, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
We don't know. Denise Go, I don't know anything about her, though. I didn't look her up. She's not.
I believe she did. The one thing I'm familiar of the work, the work I'm most familiar that is of hers is she was Yennefer in the Witcher game series.
Oh, voice. That's right. That's right.
But that's I was kind of looking her up on IMDb, and yeah, her name didn't ring a bell, which is nice. It's nice to bring in quote unquote fresh talent.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I've recognized some movies where she had a small part in, but nothing I have really seen. But that is great.
Another thing that came out leading up to May the 4th which was kind of surprising, but apparently ReedPop is holding a virtual con. Casey, you kind of broke this to me. It's not just Star Wars, or is it just Star Wars?
Well, no, I mean, the announcement that they put out that I read is all Star Wars, but it's being hosted on different cons' social media accounts, basically. And so basically what that means is,
okay, I see.
It's all put on organized by ReedPop, but they're kind of, I guess in place of how like C2E2 was canceled. All these cons have been canceled. So so far Celebration hasn't been canceled, but that's
right.
Still, I guess they're holding out for that. But anyway, yeah, exactly. Crossing fingers. But so May the 4th and Revenge of the 5th, May 5th, ReedPop is putting on some events that you can watch live on different accounts, and I'll try to quickly kind of go through some of these. Like on May the 4th, they'll be showing Star Wars Episode 4, or there'll be a live tweeting of Episode 4, 5, and 6 on May the 4th, and you can follow that live tweeting with New York Comic Con, in C2E2 and Emerald City Con. They're each going to be sharing a movie, doing that, and then like Star Wars Rebels episode watch, Clone Wars finale live tweeting by New York Comic Con on Twitter. There'll be a Q&A with Ashley Eckstein on New York Comic Con's Facebook page. So all these different cons are kind of doing their own part of this May the 4th and Revenge of the 5th virtual event. Like Florida SuperCon, Keystone Comic Con, each of them are doing something. It's very interesting. I think it's a cool. Hopefully this will be they'll do this every year, something like this. Obviously they're doing it to kind of in lieu of the times, but I love this idea. I think this is great, especially because they're actually getting some of the celebrities and authors to partake. Vanessa Marshall is going to have a Q&A, Voice of Hera. You're going to have Q&A with some authors that I don't think have been released yet, but some of the book authors and comic book authors. You're going to have a Fallen Order live stream. Don't know what that's going to be in that, but that's cool that they're still doing something about that. So Charles Soule, Greg Pak, some of these guys are going to be a part of this, the comic book authors. So it's pretty crazy. You can go to emcity2020.com/force for the full schedule. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, it's a little weird that they are kind of putting it on those different platforms, those different pages. So you kind of have to kind of like go back and forth and all this stuff. But
and it's all day, right?
It's all day, yeah. Both the 4th and the 5th, so Monday and Tuesday. I mean, it's just funny because I know a lot of other podcasters are doing live tweeting of the films and some other episodes, and all of a sudden now there's going to be like these really these other ones happening. So there's going to be a lot of competing events happening.
Oh my gosh, there's going to be so much stuff out there, yeah.
And not to mention there's all kinds of deals happening May the 4th that people can get a part of, which is awesome.
Yes. Lots to do. Hannah, are you going to be checking any of that out?
Oh, absolutely. Obviously outside of work. We'll definitely take...
Well, I'm actually probably taking the day off, actually, to be honest.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Because I can't, I mean, how can you do any of this stuff? Yeah, with work all day. I mean, it's like, even right now, like the kids, they have school apparently, but they're going to be wrapped up by noon probably. So it's like, we got some blue milk to drink and some Star Wars snacks to eat, right? So anyway, we'll get into that in a second. Now, Hannah, this is straight up your alley because Hannah's going to be becoming our official novelist, I guess, right? Which again, I'll bring up something here in a second with our Star Wars Day. But did you see this, Hannah? That Star Wars is doing a book club.
Yes, I saw that article you sent me on that, and I'm very excited about it.
I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah.
Novels has been out since 2015 or something like that. 2014 maybe. No, I think it's 2015. I think was when the first A New Dawn hit. So yeah, it's been 4+ years, and now they're just now doing a book club. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing which books they'll talk about. That's. I think the format is they're going to talk to a lot of obviously Lucasfilm people, then they're going to bring the authors on and stuff like that. So it's part of a kind of the Star Wars show, kind of doing their expansion of things. Mm-hmm. So I think that actually starts tomorrow. I think their first book is tomorrow.
Yeah. May 1st.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So look for that. That's going to be on Star Wars' YouTube channel. And let's see, I skipped one. So just a real quick thing. Rise of Skywalker is actually hitting Disney Plus on Monday as well, the 4th. Mm. They are touting, the entire Skywalker saga will now be on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. Man, that's fast. Obviously, we know why. Yeah. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. The whole Skywalker saga is really starting to, I don't know. So let's see. I want to talk about what we're going to do for our Star Wars plans, our Star Wars Day plans. Now, like Casey just said, and there's just going to be so much content out there that day. We'll contribute to it. I think it'll be fun. Not that day. That's the key. I was thinking I want to consume a bunch of stuff that day.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll do our stuff beforehand and release it that day. But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of hit on some different topics and do some short topic kind of discussions. Casey, we haven't really discussed what we were going to talk about, but Hannah and I, we were just talking before you jumped on here. She did right when the book came out. It took me a little while to get through the audiobook, but we're going to do a big comparison of the Rise of Skywalker novel to the film. Now, Hannah, just a little preview here. Tell us your kind of just overall impressions of the book. Just a glance. What would you think of it compared to the movie?
I think for certain reasons, which we can get into later because that is a can of worms, I liked it better.
Okay.
I think I liked it better.
Just the book better.
Yes, the book better because I think there are some holes and there are some bits that aren't in the movie that you really need that are in the book. And I think that just nudges it a little higher than the movie for me. And
you think very highly of the movie.
Oh, right? Yes. I think it's my favorite of the new trilogy. So it's up there, top 3, top 4. So I absolutely love that movie. But for obvious reasons, they couldn't include some of the bits of the novelization in the film. So it's just those little nuggets that were needed just to help people connect the dots.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm one of those ones. So I listened to the audiobook of it, and I've heard, because I'm not a huge reader, I've never been my entire life, and I've always heard growing up, and I'm sure you guys did too, that most of the time the books are better than the movies, right? Harry Potter, the books are better than the movies. Lord of the Rings, the books are better than the movies. It's like you always, and even romantic movies or drama movies, it's like the books are always better. I never usually read the book, so I don't know. Now, this, I will say, even though I'm not really high on The Last Jedi, the novelization of that was better than the movie. And I agree with you. This novelization was better than the movie, even though I hold Rise of Skywalker very high. And it's very much to those points, which we will get into more on our discussion, is what of those aspects were important that should have been somehow alluded to in the movie, or it actually made me go back and think about it, that could it be that this is why the release of the novel was so delayed? Were they still maybe trying to figure out what needed to be in it to explain some things that people had problems with in the movie? Because normally the book comes out right around the time the movie comes out. But it was not released until like March, right? So like 3 months later. So I started thinking like, well, maybe she wasn't finished yet because there were some things that needed to be put in later, or I don't know. That kind of made me think about that.
That comment made me write a note that we'll talk about later.
Okay.
Why I think that actually might not be the case, and if it is, they made a boo-boo.
Okay, good. Okay, well, it'll be good to hear. It'll be good to hear that then. But there are a lot of things in there that, in fact, it kind of just, for some reason, it just triggered a memory when you were saying something, Case, which I don't know what you just said, but we were talking about certain things at the end, and one was, which I won't talk about it until we talk about it, Hannah, was all the pilots that reported in during the last battle, like that wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, that was one of the. You told me that day. That was one of the things that I was really hoping was going to be in the movie.
Yes.
When we were doing like a lot of our speculations, I was like, I hope they at least do something like this so they can throw in so many Easter eggs. And it sounds like all of that happened.
In the book, it did. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Anyway, all kinds of stuff like that made the book really good. So that'll be one of ours. Other topics I think we'll talk about. Just random, not random, but just stuff that we've been thinking about over the years, and we'll have Cody on, we'll have Kumash Ku on. We'll just get some topics going and release those throughout the day on Star Wars Day as you're consuming all of this other stuff, right? So, but the beauty of ours is ours will be there for a while, forever. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of all the stuff that came out this past week. But the big thing that came out since last episode was the 10th episode of The Clone Wars. Now, this episode, called The Phantom Apprentice, featured the long and forever anticipated confrontation between Ahsoka and Maul. And so before we lead into that, there was a really awesome video they released this week too, Lucasfilm did, with the motion capture fight. And for those of you that didn't know before that, of course, Ray Park was brought back to motion capture Maul as during the lightsaber battle. So first off, we'll talk about that video. Thoughts on doing that, and how well did that work for you guys? Anna, go ahead.
Okay. I loved it. I love the fact that they did that, and I thought it was just so cool that they brought him back to do that fight. And I think it helped bring in a layer of authenticity and of familiar. Like, there was just something so familiar about it. Watching them fight, it wasn't Duel of the Fates, but it was getting there. It just reminded you of that battle. And so I think that the attention to detail down to the people who did the motion capture. Outstanding.
Yeah. Guys.
Yeah, it really shows the movement in the animation. That really shows when they use the motion capture. At least maybe I'm convincing myself that it shows, because it's just the subtleties in like the movement. Like, and I was really focusing on Maul just because obviously Ray Park is doing it, and you just want to focus on every frame of it just to see how awesome he is. Because I was really noticing, just like how he subtly shifts back and forth, or like his leg is sweeping when he's doing a crazy move. So it's like really just these very unique movements that it just feels more real, because I mean, I know it's motion capture going into it, but I feel like it shows. But afterwards from that video, we learn who the actress is who's doing the Ahsoka motion capture. And then watching that fight again, it's like, like both performances, it shows through, like how these are professional, athletes, professional combat martial arts experts, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah,
they know their stuff, and they are great performers, and it made for an amazing scene.
Yeah, I think that we saw the episode before we saw the behind the scenes, and I mean, watching the episode, I think you can clearly tell there's a difference in the fighting of this than any other one that we've seen in the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
even I think even Rebels. I think back to, because I recently watched an old Rebels episode where Ahsoka takes on the two, Inquisitors, and how it just looks so fast. You can't really tell what's, all the movements. You kind of only catch when they hit lightsabers because it freezes for a second, and it's so fast. But this, you can just see the strikes and the movements and the subtleness of Ray Park, how he stands. And it is how his leg kicks out, when he jumps. It's like, and it doesn't seem like it's a realistic jump versus some of those movements that are in previous episodes. It's so fast and unrealistic, and it was great to see them. I mean, it's been 20 years since Ray Park played Darth Maul. Actually, 22 years if you count when they actually probably filmed it.
Yeah.
Him being able to do that movement still, man. I mean, this guy has become Darth Maul. I mean, he is Darth Maul. I mean, this is he's, even though I think Sam Witwer is getting a lot of praise for how he portrays him as a voice actor, but man, Ray Park is he is Darth Maul. And it was curious. I love seeing how, especially on the part where they were in the rafters, and seeing how they had it like marked off, and they were jumping around. I mean, it's just incredible. So with that, just right off the bat, because we can get into more detail in a second, but just right off the bat, Hannah, was this the best Clone Wars episode ever?
It's definitely up there.
Yeah?
I would say it's probably one, personally for me, it's one of 3 of my favorites.
Okay. Case?
Yeah, I have to go back and kind of rewatch some of my other favorites, because as I've said kind of on the show before, where just in general, like, I don't usually go back and rewatch TV show episodes a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
not just favorite. Was it the best?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I think, like, so far I think so, but I have to rewatch. Like, I watched the Mortis episodes recently because they have been my favorite for a while. This is better than that, but I have to rewatch the Yoda episodes again to get an idea of it. But I probably, yes. Once I kind of like get my head around, okay, what are my current favorite episodes? I do think this is probably this will probably be the best one. so much effort thrown into it that we've been told and seen behind the scenes videos. Like there's just been so much care taken into it, and it shows. And I think they knew this was going to be a great episode. There was that tweet by that one guy, part of the staff and part of the crew. But no, this is definitely. I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how we will be talking about this episode for a while. There's just so much meat to it that will unpack it for quite a while, and I think that basically tells us that this is probably the best episode.
Yeah, it makes you think too as we gear up for the next episode, because there are still 2 episodes left. It's crazy to think that something this good wasn't the finale. It was 2 episodes before the finale. So Hannah, what were just a couple things that stood out to you that made it one of your considered best episodes?
Well, definitely, I think the motion capture just shoved it over the top. It made it so realistic. You almost forgot you were watching an animation. Because as you've already mentioned with other fights, it's so fast. It's like, okay, yeah, this isn't real life.
Yeah.
This is an animation. And then also, I just think a lot of the parallels between the conversation between Maul and Ahsoka, it parallels with Palpatine and Rey. It parallels with Darth Vader or Sidious and Luke. In Star Wars, we see these constant parallels. And so you sit there and you go, oh, so-and-so made this decision, like Anakin made this decision with Sidious. So what is Ahsoka going to do with Darth Maul? And it sort of raises the tension, because you're like, oh, we've been on this ground before. We've been here. What's going to happen now? So I think just a lot of those elements, it helps brings it together. And then I also think it's really cool to see another angle to Revenge of the Sith. Because now we're truly in that timeline and we're in that story. And I just think some of the conversations between Ahsoka and Obi-Wan really, really help connect some of those emotional dots that we miss in Revenge of the Sith, in my opinion. Just like, well, Anakin, of course, he feels betrayed because of X, Y, and Z, and we followed Anakin through the Clone Wars, so it just helps bring it home of that turn in Anakin's life when he decides to go to the dark side. So I just think all of those elements within the episode really made it so, and it wasn't constantly hitting you over the head with it. It was very subtle. That exposition was just done so well.
Very good. Yeah. Case, couple things.
Yeah, definitely. Again, just kind of unpack a little bit about how you can tell there's so much detail and care taken into it, because like the animation, the techniques that they use to bring out a more cinematic angle on it, it was incredible. They're framing and blocking through broken glass. They're showing crazy explosions of windows, and while Maul has his hand outstretched to him, and it's just during the fight, how the camera is moving from Ahsoka walking, then she leaves frame, Maul enters frame, then it follows him a little more. So it's like little just things like that. The rhythm of the whole animation was incredible. So you have that carrying you through the story. You have the fight, which is beautifully done, carrying you through the story. Not just Maul fight, but just the action outside with the Mauldalorians and the Mandalorians, and the clones. So that's epic. And then you have the crazy voice performance acting of Ashley Eckstein and Sam Witwer. I'm just so invested in every word they're saying to each other. I mean, Sam Witwer, both actors have definitely cemented their roles as these characters, like, because they've played them for so long now, like they've definitely become them. But like, if this is like the only episode you see of either of them, it's just definitely this episode alone proves that they are these characters, and it just makes me sad a little bit because we don't know yet about for Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka, or Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. That's not confirmed by Lucasfilm yet, but most likely Ashley Eckstein won't be the voice. That's what we were all thinking. It's a shame because this episode was her best performance, in my opinion, as Ahsoka. She nailed it. She was incredible. And Sam Witwer, like, I'm glad he's still the voice of Maul.
Yeah.
Now that they brought him into live action, so that's why. Like, and kind of to answer your question again from earlier, it's like that's why this is the best episode. That's what stood out to me, and why I think it's the best episode. So it has everything going for it. The music. It's just ridiculous. The music was great. It was really good.
Agreed. Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned it. I think the big thing that separates this one from any other one that I've seen, and I've gone back and over the last month or two really started trying to rewatch a lot of the story arcs that kind of related to this season, mainly a lot of the Captain Rex episodes, a lot of the Ahsoka episodes, stuff like that. It's funny going back and watching some episodes, not really appreciating it as much when it first came out, but there's a lot of camera movements and conversations. It's so well done. And again, they kind of, George and Dave kind of mentioned in that conversation we talked about, is that, George was trying to make it cinematic. He was like, we weren't making a TV show, we were making movies. And this felt like a movie. Like, this was on a different level. I mean, like you said, the camera movements, the sound, the things that just happened, the glass breaking, and because they were all of a sudden, they were in the throne room there, and Ahsoka and Bo-Katan were, talking to Maul, and all of a sudden the battle just starts breaking out, and you just hear it in the distance, and that's cinema. That's what happens in movies, and it's just littered with that all over the place. It was so captivating. I didn't feel, I didn't feel like I was watching just an episode. I felt like I was drawn into a film, and you just didn't want it to end. And I'm still in hopes that they're going to take these last 4 episodes and truly just put them all together and make a movie out of it.
Please.
It feels that way because they're not doing the normal introductions, and it's funny, Case, you mentioned Ashley Eckstein's performance in this. What I'm sensing and what I've kind of heard from some people that have seen the next episode, I actually feel like her best performance is coming in this episode tomorrow.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
Right? Because this is when Order 66 is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the preview episode, the conversation that her and Rex have. Have you seen that one?
The clip? Yeah.
Yeah.
I purposely am not watching it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, I feel like
not watching it.
It's going to happen right after that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy. It's
but that little conversation was phenomenal. I mean, you really feel these two characters. She's talking to Rex, and you really feel these two characters. You really do get a sense that this whole journey has been about them, and it's really beautiful. And I do think that even though I say this is the best episode, I mean, I don't know what these next 2 ones are going to be, and I could be more. I mean, this Order 66 one is going to be just flat out crazy. I think if they actually show more of these Jedi just getting wiped out, and what Ahsoka and Rex have to go through to survive. I don't know. I just think that's a major possibility. I guess the speculation on that is what do you think? How do you think? Do you have any thoughts on how do you think they're going to survive? Or I mean, we know they survive, but because it seems like, I just say this, it seems like they're going to be on a transport while this happens. I think that's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys get prediction wise? What do you guys think?
Absolutely no clue. Absolutely no clue how it's going to play out. I mean, from day one of this whole new season, I've been like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, here's a direct question. Do you think that Rex? Do you think he's taking care of the chip, or that do you think he will turn? Basically,
shot in the dark. I think he's going to pretend to turn in an attempt to save Ahsoka.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you think he knows, and he has removed his chip.
Yes, but the viewer is going to be tricked because all of the other clones there, or at least most of the clones there, are going to turn. Even if she is in a transport, not everyone's going to have the chip fixed, so they're automatically going to turn on Ahsoka and try to kill her. So my gut tells me that Rex is going to be like, "No, we got to take her in for questioning," and all of a sudden he's like, "JK, I have to think her. Let's get at her."
Case?
I mean, I totally. I feel like I'm being so like in the middle, but I can really see it both ways because it could really be great either way. Where he's either hasn't removed it, and there's a very dramatic scene of him fighting like that turn in his head, and somehow Ahsoka pulling him out of that. Or it could be a very, like on Hannah's side, like it could be very much like a tense, but in a way kind of a funny moment where he's like, "No, I took care of that, like a year ago, like that chip." But whenever we don't know the timeline of when that arc happened with the chips, but he's like, "No, I took care of that already." Like, but then like, if he already took care of it, then what has he been pretending to just act like nothing's bad about to happen? So I can go either side of it. I do like to think that he hasn't taken care of it, but there's more of a fight of resisting that thing. I don't know how that would work, but because obviously there's the arc where is it Fives that happened to in that arc?
He's the one that discovers it. Tub is the one that has the malfunction. Yeah.
So because there was when it was malfunctioning, he was like he was able to go back and forth a little bit and resist it but until it really messed up. But so I can see that because I think that'd be pretty dramatic, him kind of fighting it and then ultimately getting it out of him. Like maybe they have to do kind of dark scene of getting it out of him. That would be really edgy for this show, but I think that would be pretty cool. But ultimately, I think, I think they are going to get caught on that ship. I think the whole episode could be on the ship. I think it could be.
It's possible.
Trying to escape. And ultimately, it's Rex, Ahsoka, and Maul banding together, wiping out clones.
Now that is wow! Well, I like that. I didn't even think about that.
You also have a Rook cast, right? She was about to rescue Maul on Mandalore, right? When she like hovering above him, he was about to go on his ship, and I think she was piloting it.
Oh, right. Yes.
During the fight.
Yes.
So I think that ship will kind of be tailing the. Yeah,
she'll probably end up rescuing him at some point. Yes.
Yeah, so you may have a thing there where it's the remaining loyal Mandalorians, if there are any besides Rook cast. She and Maul, and so you have this unlikely companion of enemies.
I'd never thought about that. That's interesting.
I like that a lot.
I feel like
very
it's
interesting.
Escape. So that would be really cool. That's to me like the most dramatic thing.
Here's one of my other questions: is I never noticed it before, but obviously there are. Not all the clones are soldiers, right? You have officers that are clones. Yeah. Are they? Do they have the chip? I'm guessing they do.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, because that whole bridge. Well, you haven't seen it, Hannah, but they're standing on the bridge there when they're having that discussion in this preview episode. But on the bridge there, it's like there's all these officers that are clones. And I was thinking when I saw that, I'm like, man, do they all turn too? I guess they do.
Kind of have to.
You would think, yeah, because they would be questioning, like, what the heck's going on, I guess, if they didn't. And then the other thing is I was thinking, I guess, what's the mandate of a clone that hears or executes Order 66? Is it because Ahsoka's not a Jedi per se right now, right?
Sure.
So, but is it only it's all people with lightsabers, or it's all people with Force abilities? It's usually what we've seen in the movie is that it's all the generals, like take out the general, and she's not a general; she's a commander still, or whatever. And so I don't know. I guess they turn on her still.
That's a good point. I mean, it's very good point. I mean, I can see them just simply saying it's just, if you're a former Jedi, you're working with the Republic, you're working with the Jedi, and you basically are a Jedi, but not on paper. But so I can see that, like, you're the same thing. We're going to kill you. But
yes,
I mean, but that's a good point.
You're a threat. They're a threat to the Emperor. Yeah. That's basically what.
Because the same thing could be said, would they turn against Maul? I wouldn't think they would, because again, they're probably programmed to only go against Jedi, but Maul could be a threat in the same way as a Jedi in this scenario. So I don't know. That's a good point. We'll see.
Yeah, I do think that this will. I think this episode, next episode, I actually think it'll fully kind of lead to the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Because we'll see. Because I think, kind of similar to you, what you just said, Case, when you're saying, which I think is a great idea, that there's a possibility that Maul could work with each other to survive, and then Maul, of course, will go his separate way because we know he has to escape. But I have a thought that I still have a thought that somehow, maybe not, probably the last episode, that there will be some kind of communication still between Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, or Bail and Ahsoka, or something that signifies, look, you got to go hide, and eventually we'll contact you, or eventually we'll.
Yeah.
I just think that's got to happen, and we know that that's going to be probably after the twins are born.
Yeah. There'll be a cool line of like Ahsoka asking how's Anakin, where's Anakin? Obi-Wan says Anakin's dead, or something like that.
Yes. Ooh. Oh, now see, that's right, because she, as far as we know, she has no idea about Anakin up until that scene in Rebels, where they sense each other, right? So,
yeah. Well, it would be cool if, and this is speculating, to the finale, but the last episode, if they end up still making it to Coruscant, maybe not on the capital ship, but they escape that, but still try to make it to Coruscant, because why would they think that's, I don't know, they feel like that's probably the safest place.
Well, remember the temple is sending a signal to bring them back.
Yeah, so I can see like Ahsoka at least getting to Coruscant with Rex and just seeing the chaos that's happening.
Yeah.
And the temple's on fire, or whatever. There's like smoke, I think.
Oh man!
Right, but obviously not finding out more than that.
Yeah,
she would find out. She would learn too much. But the finale, it's not going to end. It's not going to end happy this season. I mean, it'll end with hope, I'm sure, like as it should, as all these stories do. But it's going to end the same way Revenge of the Sith is going to end. So it's going to be sad.
Yep.
It's going to be very sad.
So have your tissue boxes ready.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so. Very much so. I did have a note here to kind of talk about, as we kind of speculate whether or not this is the best episode ever. I was just going to highlight a couple that I had previously watched, because I went back, like I said, I've been going back and watching some. I mean, if people haven't seen it in a while, the last 4 episodes of season 5, when Ahsoka leaves, like Man, I rewatched those. Those are pretty incredible. You're talking about cinematic also. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That was some incredible stuff. And then again, like some of the clone episodes, I would say, like the ones with Fives and Tub, and learning more about Rex and in these guys. The chip at the beginning of season 6 was really good. I'm with the case. The Mortis stuff and the Yoda stuff. I'm a big fan of. Mortis being, I had it in front of me here. Mortis, I think, was season 3. I think
that's right.
Thanks.
I just saw it recently, but I think that sounds right.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't scroll
Let's see.
on here, but season, I think it's season 3, but
episodes 15, 16, 17, I
17,
think.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then of course the season, in season 5, right before the Ahsoka arc, is the arc where Sidious captures Maul and kills Savage, and it's like those are on Mandalorian. I mean,
That's
those
right.
episodes, man.
Yeah,
those are some of my favorites. I don't know, Hannah, you got any that you've kind of thought of?
You named the ones that were my favorite. The Wrong Jedi and Orders.
Yes, yeah.
Those specifically were my favorite, just story-wise. And then I think another arc I really like, which is a little more subtle, is the Ventress arc. I really like her arc as well. But otherwise, you mentioned all the other faves.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I they would be some of my favorites for sure, and maybe I would think, but the ones that ended up being the book, Dark Disciple, like,
yes,
I love Ahsoka or Asajj, and again, and that's a kind of a story that didn't properly get finished, I feel like, with the episodes, but unfortunately it was finished in Dark Disciple. But yeah, you had a lot of stuff in there with Obi-Wan and with Quinlan Vos and Dooku. I mean, it's just such a good story. Yeah. Asajj is very incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It would have been great to have those in the show just to cement the idea that the Jedi are very flawed.
Yes.
Make wrong decisions. I'm glad we got that line from Obi-Wan.
Yes.
As like the council can be wrong sometimes. I mean, we get that, for those that reading all these stories or even just watching the movies, you get that idea. And especially in hindsight, you watch it, it's like, yeah, the Jedi were very naive. But no, that arc, that story of Dark Disciple, I mean, the whole nature of it, sending a Jedi to assassinate Dooku, like, that's wrong. That's very wrong for them to do that.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I mean, yeah, not at all the perspective that we had when the prequels first came out, but I mean, that's why I love these stories, because they make you see it from different through different lenses.
Yeah, and another arc that I watched that's, again, very clone centric, that really ties the brotherhood of the clones together, which I think is going to be tragic as we see. Because that Rex is probably going to have to kill a bunch of his clones.
That's very
right?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, and there's an arc, a 4-episode arc in season 4 also. It starts with episode 7 called Darkness on Umbara. And this is where it's that really dark planet, and Anakin gets drawn away, and Krell, who is another Jedi, Master Krell, comes in. And I won't give it away, but he does some things, and basically the clones kind of have to fight. They end up fighting each other in a way, and man, I mean, it's tragic. Basically, what's happening in these it was again breathtaking to see all that stuff, but again, just going back to some of these stories that are back here, it's. You got really good ones with Luminari, and definitely in season 1 you got a ton with General Grievous that are really good.
Oh, yes.
You know? So, anyway, there's some outstanding episodes, but man, I don't know. This last arc of Siege of Mandalore is it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so on that note, yeah, the next week on our show, we'll be talking about both episodes because we'll be getting both episodes.
Yeah.
This next weekend. So episode 11 will drop May the 1st, which is tomorrow. That's called Shattered, and you got Victory and Death, which is the Clone Wars finale on Monday, May the 4th. I'm not ready. Not ready.
Sorry.
Not ready. Yeah, right. All right. That's unless you guys got anything else, that's our episode.
I think so.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. Again, May the 4th. We're gonna put some topics out throughout, so we'll put it out on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. But check out our Facebook group if you want to join that. That's usually where I drop this stuff first. And of course, InsideTheForce.com for all our episodes. That is it, I guess. Trying to think of something else to say, but it's getting late. So, yeah, you don't have the kid anymore right now. Okay, so for a couple days, right? So you're.
Yeah.
My kids are probably awake still, but that's all right.
Well, I'm sure mine is.
Yeah, right. Hannah, you got the dog still awake?
I think she's knocked out. She's actually really good about sleeping overnight.
Oh, good.
She lucked out.
How old is she now?
Still a puppy, right?
Yeah, she's 10 months.
She's not a year yet. Okay.
No, her birthday's in July.
Nice. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for checking us out, Hannah. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Look for our book review of the novelization for The Rise of Skywalker here on Monday, May the 4th. Case, as always, we'll get something figured out, and we'll be back next week. I'm sure next week's going to be a lot about Clone Wars, how this thing has come to an end. So bring your tissues.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
everybody.
Take care, everybody. May the Force be with you.